Greetings, everyone. This is Ukraine Media Center in Lviv. My name is Oleg Panyuta. Today is day 163 of Ukrainian resistance against Russian full-scale invasion. We have a number of interesting activities and some stimulating guests. And our first guest is Mr. Andriy Moskalenko, first Deputy Mayor of Lviv. And he's also the head of the working group dealing with renaming streets in the Lviv City Territorial Community. This is something that will be the focus of our discussion. Andriy, over to you. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Greetings. My first question is as follows. When we are talking about the Derussification of streets and proper names in Lviv, I can't really get it. How come that we have such names in Lviv? Do we have many of them, and is it the right time to change them? We are viewing this issue in Lviv in a broader context, so it's not really about Derussification, it's more about decolonialization. We had a number of initiative groups, and by decree of Lviv City Mayor, we also set up a working group that united all these initiative groups, and we started elaborating the new toponymy for our city. So we reviewed some of the street names that were related to Russia: Brylov, Tchaikovsky. Very often, these names are used as part and parcel of the Russian propaganda that only these figures can be grand and distinguished. But we have our own famous personalities like Mr. Skorik. We have a lot of things within our history that we want to promote and propagate within our working group. We have analyzed about 100 different requests that we received. And the session of the Lviv municipality decided that we have 53 streets that need to be decolonized. I can tell you more about the breakdown of this list. Did you receive more requests? Well, as I have already mentioned, we have received about 100 proposals for new street names, but we had 17 meetings of the working group, 24 members, historians, architects. We also engaged mathematicians, like, for example, if we wanted to use the names of some famous mathematicians, like chemistry, biology. We also involved required professionals. We wanted to understand whether this person had something to do with Lviv, whether the works of this person were used as part of the Russian propaganda, or maybe the Russian propaganda wanted to expropriate some of Ukrainian accomplishments. And as a result of all these discussions, we made decisions on 53 streets. Well, 52 made it into the final resolution of the Lviv municipality because one street was not pertinent. And we have already decided to rename the first 8 streets, and the relevant plaques are already being installed in the city. May Street, Travneva Street, Chervonopraporna, Red Flag Street, right? No, we didn't have any streets of this kind. The first street is Nekrasova Street, and we decided to change the name after Yuri Ruf, our poet and famous figure. Brylov Street is a landmark street because it houses a museum that Irina Kamelets contributed to. This is the Terror Museum, so we renamed the street after Irina Kamelets. We also have a number of streets in the vicinity of the airport: the Hestanska Street, Hostomelska Street. We also have Chernobyevska Street now, and there's another interesting neighborhood in the city where we have Ternopilska Street, Zaporizhia Street, as a sign of support for Kherson, because the city of Kherson has always been and will always be a Ukrainian city. Now we have Khersonska Street. Well, but 52, so it's a long pathway, right? Exactly. So we have a clear-cut procedure. We submitted the first 14 street names for voting because we want to make sure that we complete all required formal and informal procedures. So we had a voting procedure on the website of the Lviv City Council, and it will be an additional vote at the meeting of the working group. And last week we received the results for additional 25 streets. So next week we will decide on 32 streets. So these streets will be adopted. I mean, the new names will be adopted in the near future, and there are some highly debated streets, Bilozira, Vakarchuka Street. It's an animated discussion right now, but we believe that we need to have these street names in the city of Lviv because these are two famous figures for Lviv. But it's an expensive procedure. Is the city ready? And what are the sentiments among the local population? We're not going to earmark any additional funding to this end. So this will be done at the expense of district administrations. We have 6 district administration within our city, and they are responsible for replacing plaques. We might have some difficulties with the manufacturers because we have an adopted brand book, so it has to be a metal sign or plaque. There are some technical specifications that have to be complied with. Not all the plaques have been produced yet. We still have a lot of streets that need to be renamed, like Skripnika Street. The average cost is about 300, 600 remis, depending on the manufacturer. But basically, it's a problem for local residents and entrepreneurs because they need to change the street name as part of their business activities and documentation. It's an important aspect indeed, and this is something that we have already explained. Both individuals and legal entities do not really need to pay for anything, and they do not really need to do anything at this specific point. I mean, if they decide to purchase or sell an apartment, they will have to make that change, but at this specific point, they don't really need to do any specific. If anyone encounters any challenges, our administrative service delivery centers will be ready to support. The first plaques and signposts have already been installed in Zaliznichny district, in Lechakivsky district, so this process is already ongoing. If there is a coffee place on Brylova Street, should it be renamed? Or like the name of the coffee place was on Brylova Street. Well, I think it's an element of pride. Like maybe you can rename into Rufa Street, or we have a street named after Cardinal Huzar. So I think that it can even serve as an additional bonus or attraction for this coffee place or institution. Can you tell us more about how new street names were selected and to what extent the local population was engaged? We have received about 200 proposals for new street names. Some of the proposals were very specific. For example, we want the Tchaikovsky Street to be renamed into this street. Or we suggest that we have Markiyana Ivashishina streets, a famous Lviv resident, a famous Ukrainian. And the working group analyzed the background, explored the history, why should this specific street be renamed. We also analyzed the new name, what the grounds for this new name are. There are some streets where there are only 2 small private houses. And if there's no context there, if there's no link, then why rename? I have already referred to 2 streets. There are only private houses there, but they are located in the vicinity of the airport. But from a geopolitical perspective, it's essential to support Kherson, Chornobayivka, Hostomel. So the history matters. The Commission has already made this decision. For example, Markiana Ivashchishina street, but it will not be a street, it will be a square garden. The same is true about Stanislav Lem. It does not have to be a street, it can be a square. It's not a mechanical or technical task. We've had a multitude of meetings and we have undergone an in-depth review process, but it's a historic decision because we've never renamed so many streets in the city of Lviv, 53 streets. But what about transportation operators? I guess they will have to reformat some of their information materials because they will need to communicate these new street names to the local population. Are you in communication with them, and are they supportive of this process? We have one large municipal transportation company, ATP1. We also have some private transportation operators. We are in perpetual communication with them. We have not had any major logistical issues so far. Some streets, apart from Skripnika Street, are quite cozy and small streets. Hercena Street, Tchaikovsky Street. These are cozy side streets. There's no major traffic there. So far, we have not had any issues in this regard. Conversely, we can see an avid interest in the streets. They are being renamed. We are inundated with requests and questions on the part of the local residents with regard to the streets where they live. So the level of citizen engagement in Lviv is very high. Will we have anything Russian left in the city of Lviv in terms of proper names? There's one important point that needs to be taken into account. We have analyzed all the names, but it's not about combating something specific. We just want to decolonize toponymical names. We are not challenging Lobachevsky's achievements, but if his inventions were used as a part and parcel of the Russian propaganda, for example, he said that esteemed scholars can be only with specific roots. We are definitely against such propaganda statements. We have a lot of famous mathematicians like Ladishevsky. Many people voted for him. It's an entire family of famous inventors. They are from Ukraine. They have their roots in the city of Lviv. And it's crucial for us that people born in Ukraine be glorified and commemorated. So this is our key task. It's not about combating something. It's more about removing those narratives that have been detrimental. Thank you very much, Andriy. We had Andriy Moskalenko with us, first Deputy Mayor of Lviv, head of the working group dealing with renaming streets in the Lviv City Territorial Community. Thank you very much for this conversation. Our next briefing will take place at 12:30 p.m.